What's going on, everyone? The market ended up having a pretty good day today, as around 77% of stocks in the S&P 500 finished in the green, and it's starting to get to that fun time of the week as we're starting to see some of these big tech stocks finally report earnings. And one of the most popular big tech stocks lately, or one of the most popular stocks out there, Tesla, reported after the bell today, and so far it's looking good. So in tonight's video, we're going to cover Tesla's earnings, the important things to know, some of the best setups for tomorrow, and other things to be aware of heading into the market tomorrow. Earnings season is in full effect, and there's a lot of moves happening in both directions right now. Let's follow the money, and let's make this week a great one. But with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into today's episode.
Yeah, today was one of the best days out of the market in a little while. I know yesterday we saw the market rip up pretty good, well above $500, and today it held up above there and continued its march higher here in the short term. Now, I will say this, whenever you zoom out on like an hourly chart, it's not like we're up a ton, okay? There's resistance coming up around this 506.50 mark, 508, and even like 510 to 512. A lot of big resistances coming up, so still keep that in mind with the S&P 500 here as it does recover. But one thing that's definitely going to help it recover, Mike, and I know everybody who's a Tesla fan or a shareholder out there is celebrating tonight because their earnings are moving higher, and that's going to really help the market push a little bit higher tomorrow, especially if these other tech stocks end up moving up with it. But Mike, I'll say this, Tesla had the biggest revenue slide since 2012, but the stock is up in after hours. What is going on?
Exactly. So Tesla's earnings report today can best be summarized as it wasn't as bad as everyone was expecting. Tesla stock is moving to the upside in after hours right now, which is good to see, but realistically, they missed on their earnings expectations. They missed on their revenue expectations. They had negative free cash flow. They beat margins, which is good. As Tom mentioned, they had their biggest revenue slide since 2012, and their deliveries were down 9% year over year. So, clearly from an earnings perspective, it's not the best, you can say. But here's the thing. When everyone has such harsh expectations, you could have some, what we'll call, not so ideal earnings and have the stock price go up anyways. And while the stock is moving up in after hours, if we're being realistic, Tesla stock is still lower than the price it was at a week ago. Like in last week's video, Tesla was trading for around like $158 a share, and as of right now, it's only at $154 a share. So it's moving up, but it still has a lot more work to do.
It really does, and that overall move tonight in after hours is awesome, and who knows, that might start to really kick off like a good uptrend coming in here off of this dip. I don't know about you, Mike, but I've gotten so many questions over the past couple months about, oh my gosh, Tesla's down, should I buy it? Should I buy it? I feel like everybody's waiting for that perfect price. Like, when are we going to start buying up Tesla? And with this good move back to the upside here, we might start to see a short-term uptrend again, and there are some big resistances like 160, 170, and especially 180 that I'll be watching for on the way up here. But overall, it's a pretty good move to the upside, Mike, even though the earnings might not have necessarily wowed investors, right? Like, that's a pretty bad headline whenever you see the biggest revenue slide since 2012. Now, it is good to see their margins getting better, and they are working on that cheaper the cheaper models that they talk about. I know Elon's had that vision of like coming out with a $25,000 model. That'll be pretty big if they actually get that done, but I don't know, Mike, they're probably a long way out on that, but just with how much it's sold off lately, I think you're right. Like the scale of this move isn't really anything yet, but now let's say that the earnings continue and like the stock starts to push towards like into the 170s or up towards like 180, then I would call this a more significant run here.
No doubt. And like when you're looking at a stock that is as volatile as Tesla is, in the short term, it is all a game of momentum. When there's good news in the short term and people are bidding the stock higher, there's a lot of opportunity to play the stock to the upside in the short term, but it's just important to be aware of like when that momentum shifts. It is very clear that the momentum has definitely not been in Tesla's favor since the beginning of the year. And with that being said, it has fallen down quite a bit as it is the worst performing stock in the S&P 500 so far this year. But in the same way stocks can't uptrend forever, it's pretty hard for, companies as big as Tesla to just fall forever, right? There are bounces along the way. So in the short term, it's all a game of momentum. If we continue to see like momentum build up with this one in the short term, I can definitely see some opportunity with it. But at the same time, if that momentum doesn't truly build up, then it might not be worth the risk playing this one. But just keep a close eye on it for tomorrow, because they are still yet to have their earnings conference call, and that can also bring in a lot of extra volatility to the stock.
Yeah, they really can, Mike. Like, you never know with Elon at these conference calls. I mean, he's gotten in trouble at the conference calls in the past. I remember he said some crazy stuff that pissed off shareholders a long time ago, and he's been kind of watching himself, but you never know what he's going to pull out of his sleeve. Maybe talk about some new tech or getting something else going. I think that could really start to stir people in the short term and even bring in more buyers. But I know that the expected move for Tesla was like right around 9 to 10%. And Mike, to see that Tesla's just under like that 9% mark, and to get to 10%, it'll have to push up towards like 160. We might see it happen. It's starting to push a little bit higher, but right now it's a little bit under the expected move, which hopefully it starts to get some more volatility. That way, there's just better moves here in the short term for us.
Yep, so keep a close eye on this one. We all know how volatile Tesla can be, but we also have some pretty other exciting earnings reports for tomorrow. So what's on the schedule?
Yeah, Mike, there's a lot. So before the market opens, we have the infamous Boeing reporting. You better watch out for that report. I mean, I know Tesla's had a lot of negativity lately, and they popped up, but I don't know that Boeing's going to be able to find the same type of move that Tesla did. We have AT&T before open, General Dynamics, which is a pretty big defense stock there. And then in after hours, this is everybody's favorite, Meta here on Wednesday. That's going to be huge. I know Mike loves Meta. We also have IBM and Ford reporting in after hours there. But I know all eyes will be on Meta tomorrow, Mike, and then Microsoft and Google on Thursday.
Yeah, and with like some of these bigger tech stocks that are up so much over the past year, I am a little bit nervous with some of these reports. Like Meta has just been rising non-stop since November of 2022. Meta went from like under $100 a share to highs of about $530 a share, and it's still right around that $500 mark. So what I am concerned of is like, even if we see good earnings, just like we saw with Netflix, it's very possible for the stock to still fall. And I know Netflix had some other news attached with that one, but it's just worth keeping in mind, because good earnings, as we all know, doesn't always equal increasing stock price. And another thing worth noting is that so far this earnings season, we have seen some fantastic earnings continuations. Check out like Citigroup as one of them. Citigroup reported earnings, and they've just been drifting higher and higher and higher ever since. Another one, American Express, AXP, basically the same situation there. And then another one, United Airlines, which we have covered a decent amount over like the past week or so, reported earnings, had a monster day, and has just been continuing to the upside day after day. So whether you're looking at Tesla or some of these other big reports this week, keep in mind we have been seeing like a pretty good like momentum driven earnings season so far, which is a really good thing, at least in terms of short-term trading.
It really is. And like, let's say Elon says something nice at the conference call, and that brings in even more buyers here in the short term. That could be even better for it, just continuing to I guess, bring in that volatility, bring in the buying pressure. And of course, with Tesla down a lot too, I mean, this might start to force a lot of shorts out of the stock too. I mean, we'll probably see a lot of shorts start to cover if this thing really does start to rip up a lot here. But I know Tesla is a pretty heavily shorted company, Mike. It used to have the label for, highest shorted company in the market. Probably not anymore, but it used to.
All right, so shifting away from the earnings madness for a second, let's take a look at SPY. It is back above that crucial $500 level right now, and it's bouncing in a pretty nice way, but it still has a lot more work to do in the short term if it does want to see an uptrend. It made highs a couple weeks ago right around like that $525 area, and since that point, it has been pulling back, which has been the biggest drawdown that we have seen so far this year, and even over like the past couple months. So SPY is holding up in a nice way right now, but it definitely doesn't have anywhere near the level of strength that it had a couple weeks ago and a couple months ago. So Tom, going into like the next couple days, what are the most important levels to watch for SPY?
Yeah, there's a lot of big levels here coming up, and the big thing that I'm going back to are some of these big wicks from back on like March 11th, and then actually on March 15th. I'll draw some nice arrows here pointing to those. You guys can already see some arrows pointing to some of the other previous levels that we've looked at in the past. So as resistance, one of the biggest levels I'm seeing here is 508.50 to 509. That is going to be the biggest, like most major level that I'm watching. There was even a good bounce there just a couple weeks ago. So I'm definitely going to be watching that to the upside. But with that being said, there was actually a range that I've been watching too. And considering where SPY is right now, we might start to break it. I've been watching this 506.50 top from last week, and I'm looking at that area for a breakout tomorrow. So if we do see that break, maybe watch like 508.50 after that, and then following that, I'm seeing 512 as the next major level. 510 will probably have some price action too, but not as much as 512 in my opinion. But that's what I'm looking at with SPY to the upside, Mike. To the downside, I'm really watching this 502 support. I think if we could hold above that in the short term, it'll be pretty good.
All right, sounds good. And another thing to keep in mind is that we are heading into a pretty seasonally weak part of the year. Throughout all election years going all the way back to 1949, we could see like the period between like April and May to like June has been pretty weak for the market, and we're already starting to see this. And it's not that the market like crashes during this time of the year, but it's definitely a lot weaker than normal, or I should say a lot weaker than other parts of the year. So just like another thing to keep in mind, because so many people get caught up on like an increasing market that we've seen, you know, very obviously since November, or yeah, you could say, yeah, since like November of 2023. But it's worth noting that the market right now is a lot different than the market from a couple months ago. So that is important, and definitely keep a close eye on that. And then Tom, I know we don't have like the biggest economic schedule this week, but what should we watch out for?
Yeah, 1 hour before the market opens tomorrow, durable goods orders will be happening. That'll be fairly large. I don't think it's as big as the next two ones, though, like the GDP growth rate on Thursday, 1 hour before the market opens. And then on Friday, we're going to get the PCE price index, personal income, and personal spending data, all there 1 hour before the market opens. But that's pretty much it for the economic data, Mike. And I'm kind of glad with that, because I'd rather focus on these big earnings and just try to play these continuations. I'm actually really glad that Powell's not speaking this week with all these big companies reporting.
No doubt. It's like when you have earnings season in full effect and you have the big powerhouse tech companies reporting, a lot of times it's better just to have that event rather than having to worry about some sort of inflation release or any other economic data. So it should be a pretty good week for in terms of like opportunities. But speaking of that, let's get into some setups. So one stock I'm watching pretty closely right now is Zoom, ticker symbol ZM. The traders who've been around for a couple of years know that back in the COVID days, this was everyone's favorite stock. It was, blasting up for good reason. But since that point, it has fell out of the sky, and most people have have totally forgot about it, right? But looking at it right now, it is bouncing off of a crucial support right around like that $59 level, and it had a really good day today, and it goes to show you that there is some pretty good buying pressure at these lower levels right here. So I'm definitely looking at Zoom to the upside in the short term. It is not one of those stocks that has, just so much hype and momentum and like attention with it, some of these chip stocks or crypto stocks lately, but it does have a good amount of buyers coming in at this level, and it is at a historically low level right now. So I'm definitely looking at it to the upside, but it might take a couple days to see some like meaningful movement out of it. But today alone was a pretty good day as it popped up by 3.5%.
Yeah, that was a really good move, and it has weak correlation to SPY, so it's not really going to care too much probably what the overall market does, which is a good thing, although it did very well today with the market. I really like this lower level, Mike, and there's even a good trend line it's starting to bounce off of. I can see a lot of buyers coming into Zoom here, down around the lows. With my first play, I'm looking at General Motors, and I know, we've been talking a lot this week, Mike, about not playing earnings, and we've been saying to play the move after, and we're actually going to look at this one as an after after earnings move. So I'm going to look at this one for a continuation. It is right around key resistance at $46. Now, if it's able to break this double top here, then I'm going to go ahead and look at calls again tomorrow. It ran up 4.3% today. This is General Motors stock. One little outlier with this one is that Ford does report tomorrow in after hours. So this will mainly be a play for tomorrow. Like if it doesn't break tomorrow, then we're going to have to wait till after Ford reports because you don't want to hold this one overnight considering Ford could impact GM a little bit.
Alrighty. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is KWEB. So this is basically a ETF with a bunch of China stocks in it. And we talked about China stocks quite a bit in yesterday's video. Both individually, but also in terms of momentum plays and the big money play. And they had a fantastic day today, right from open. So KWEB is seeing some pretty strong inflows in the short term right now. And it had a pretty good day with very little drawdowns. So I'm definitely going to continue to watch it to the upside in the short term. It does tend to move a decent amount in terms of like pre-market and after hours. But as long as you see that like good price action, just like we saw today, it can normally have some pretty nice size moves. So KWEB is on my radar for the upside for the next couple days, and honestly even for like the next couple weeks and months.
Yeah, me too, Mike. And I know that, the viewers have probably heard me say a lot that I'm not a big fan of China stocks because I don't like the geopolitical risk and other things like that. But in the short term, they're actually starting to look pretty enticing, especially at these levels and with the types of moves that we're starting to see. And shout out to SurgeBot today for the amazing play on Queb. I got to give it some credit. A nice 50% play there, slow and steady as we started to really break out there in the afternoon. So shout out there. And we'll talk about that in a little while. But with my first play, or my next play, I should say, I'm going with NVIDIA. And this stock had a really good day today. And in after hours, started to test and actually break slightly above a pretty key resistance around 830. So I'm going to be watching this spot very closely. You can see here on the book map that there was a lot of sellers stacked up at 830 here at the end of the day. And there's even a few at like 835 and then 840 on the way up. And I'm really going to be watching this one tomorrow for a breakout. If it continues to hold above 830, then I will keep looking at bullishness to the upside. Now, if it does start to reject and fall back down, then I will adapt and start to look at it to the downside. If we switch out to an hourly chart, there's actually a pretty big trend line that it's coming back up on that once it broke back under here last time, it was a pretty nasty sell-off. So I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on this over the next couple days, and especially tomorrow. With the Tesla moving up, there could be a lot of bullishness that ends up flowing into the market.
All right. Well, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have WBA to the upside.
Yeah, Walgreens here looking pretty good. If it can break above the high of day right around 1845, then go ahead and look at calls to the upside. And there was a bit of resistance in pre-market the other day around 1850. Just keep your eye on that too.
All right. With the next one, we have SMH to the downside.
Yeah, SMH had a really good day today, and after hours, it's up quite a bit, but it might end up rejecting. NVIDIA is getting close to resistance too. If it ends up falling under support around 208, then go ahead and eye up puts.
All right, and then with the last one, we have one of those crazy crypto-related stocks, Coinbase, for both directions.
Yeah, coin can go pretty wild. In the short term here, it's nearing resistance. If it breaks above 239, then go ahead and look at calls to the upside. If it breaks back under 230, then go ahead and look at puts. And that 230 support's pretty big.
All right, so we have the downside level for Coinbase. We also have the upside level. And then don't forget about the downside level with SMH. And then the upside level for WBA. These three stocks are on close watch tomorrow for potential day trades if and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. We want to see strong, consistent pressure with these stocks, and the more momentum, the better. For the downside levels, we're looking for the stocks to move down and then continue. And for the upside levels, we're looking for the stocks to break up and continue that way. So keep a close eye on these three for tomorrow. And let's jump right into today's $800,000 big money trade of the day. And we are looking at ticker symbol AMAT. So this is another semiconductor related stock. And as we all know, the semiconductor or chip stocks have been crushing it over like the past year or so, especially. But they have been slowing down quite a bit in the short term. AMAT basically rejected off that $215 resistance a couple of weeks ago and has been falling ever since, and now it's below the $200 level. And today we saw the big money put $800,000 into the AMAT 195 strike put options that expire on November 15th of 2024. Looking at AMAT, it has been relatively weak in the short term. There's a lot of resistance overhead. The chip stocks are trading at some pretty aggressive valuations right now. These put options are already in the money. They have a decent amount of time to them. So overall, the setup's definitely not bad. And it can act as a hedge to the overall market in a way. And then also, the stock has just been getting weaker by, I guess you could say the past couple days especially. So not a bad setup. One thing is that it is relatively expensive. So SMH is an ETF of multiple semiconductor related stocks that will move in a somewhat similar way. So if you are looking for a cheaper alternative to this play, check out SMH.
Yeah, that looks pretty good, Mike. Honestly, they look very similar, and I'm wondering, with Applied Materials here, if the big money was looking for a good short opportunity, but they were waiting for a couple of uptrends, or a little uptrend to catch a good entry. This might not be a bad one here. The one thing is it does go out to November, so keep that in mind, guys. It's not something that's meant for tomorrow or anything like that, but I will say this: in the short term, I could see some of these semiconductor stocks like Nvidia, AMAT, and others moving up slightly for a couple days before touching resistance and then starting to move back down and break key supports and go even lower. But that's kind of what I'm looking at with the price action here, and hopefully AMAT plays out that way, because I like this little uptrend here. It might act as a bit of a dead cat bounce.
Yep, so keep a close eye on this one going forward. But the market had a pretty good day today. Tesla stock is having some nice price action in after hours. But as we've been saying, right now it is more important than anything else to be adaptable. The market has been blasting for months now at a time, but we have been seeing a slow shift in market flows. Tesla's doing great in after hours right now, but remember to be realistic. It is still down quite a bit over the past couple months, and it's still only to last week's prices. There will be momentum, and there will be opportunities with some of these, earnings plays in the short term. But remember to be adaptable and follow the money as always. Keep those stop losses in place, and let's have a great week. But Tom, let's give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Natasha, in the StockedUp trading floor. She's been in the chat for a couple weeks now, and she did great with today's Surge KWEB play. So thank you for being such a positive and great member, and keep up all the great work. And also, if you're into short-term trading, definitely check out the first link in the description in the comments down below. You'll get full access to our army of trading robots. You can join our live events. You can chat with Tom and myself all day long, access the big money plays on the same day they're made, among many, many other things. Today's SurgeBot play popped up by 50%, which was awesome to see. So consider joining the StockedUp trading floor. It'll be that first link in the description and the comments down below. But Tom, do you have any other final thoughts before heading into tomorrow?
Yeah, nothing too crazy here, Mike. Hopefully Tesla keeps having this good movement like it's having here in after hours. I would love to see a continued breakout back to the upside. Now, I've been a big fan of Tesla falling down, but it's important to adapt, guys. And tomorrow, I'm definitely going to be a very adaptable trader on this stock and just make sure to really follow the money here in the short term. That's really the name of the game, especially for short-term trading. So let's go, Mike. There's still a lot of big earnings this week, too. Don't forget about Microsoft, Alphabet on Thursday, and then tomorrow, Meta and IBM are going to be two pretty big tech stocks in after hours. So be prepared, guys. We're going to see a lot of swings like we saw with Tesla tonight over the next few days, and I'm sure it'll be fairly mixed considering how many companies are reporting.
It's an exciting time to be a trader. Let's go. Last but not least, if you're new to the channel, consider demolishing that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. In every single video, we cover everything you have to know about the market, some great setups, important earnings, economic information, and charts that you just won't find anywhere else, as well as big money plays. So consider joining the StockedUp crew. But besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's have an awesome week in the markets.